Man, the premise is that America is a racist country. And cops, the way George Floyd was treated, is a microcosm of just how institutionally, structurally, systemically, and courtesy of Beto O'Rourke, foundationally racist we are. Seven years ago, Don Lemon, the Trump-hating host on CNN, which I watch so you don't have to, made a statement that could have been made by any of the conservatives in my documentary, Uncle Tom, which, again, is available on uncletom.com. And I want to suggest to you that Barack Obama believes everything I say. But he's also a politician. He also knows that he's got to put out this claptrap about how racist America is. Racism is in America's DNA. We're not cured of it. You just can't lose that overnight. No. He knows that's BS. How do I know that he knows it's BS? Because that's the way he lived his life. Tell me where Barack Obama has suffered because of racism. Give it to me. When? Where? How? Raised in Hawaii? Mom has a PhD in anthropology. Dad, biological father anyway. PhD from Harvard in economics.
We do not have time for this kind of silliness.
Mom remarries a oil executive, moves to Indonesia, goes to a school that's run for the oil executives' children. Mom wants him to have an even better education, sends him back to live with his white grandparents in Hawaii. Not Detroit, not Cleveland, not Chicago. Hawaii, where he goes to Punahou, not some urban school, the finest prep school in the whole state. Is he discriminated against? Is he faced racism? Is he not chosen to play on the basketball team because he's black? No. Writes an entry in his yearbook where he jokes about smoking dope and having a good time, kicking back. Then somehow, some way, he gets into Occidental, which is a very selective prep school, private college here in L.A. And he admitted he wasn't a particularly good student at Punahou. How he got in, I don't know. You tell me. Maybe he had great SAT scores. I wouldn't know since he's never shown them. Does 2 years there, then goes to Columbia, Ivy League, finishes up there, Harvard for law school. He wrote a book called Dreams from My Father when he was, in his 20s, because he was the first black president of the Harvard Law Review. And in the book, he describes a relationship that he had with a woman. He was deeply in love with her. She was a white woman from a very well-to-do family, and the family embraced him. Didn't shun him because he was black, didn't tell her that either it's us or him. No, they embraced him. He dumps her. And in the book, it clearly bothers him because he told a relative about this. And she says, does it bother you? He says, well, it still does. Because he wanted a political career and he felt that she would be a liability. Family embraced him. So you tell me. And had the nerve to challenge Hillary for the nomination in 2008? Came out of nowhere? Last name many of us couldn't pronounce. Middle name Hussein, for crying out loud. Not from some big state that can help him electorally. From Hawaii. What president comes from Hawaii? Knocks Hillary off? Knocks off John McCain? Knocks off Mitt Romney? I mean, I've seen the studies, I've seen the stats, I've seen the polls where whites were asked in the 50s and the 60s, would you vote for a black president? Are you kidding me? gets a higher percentage of the white vote than John Kerry. He knows it's BS. When he moves to D.C. and Michelle makes this big display out of trying to decide what schools to send Sasha and Malia, and she interviewed with some of the public schools, I told you then. I said, I'll be a cross-dressing Russian cosmonaut if she chooses a public school for those girls. What did she choose? Sidwell Friends. The same pricey prep school, I think it's almost $40,000 to $50,000 a year, that Chelsea went to. You tell me where he has suffered because of racism. Where? When? How? It's BS and he knows it. Where did he get the gumption to run for president? Nobody black had been president before. Who was his role model? His role model was the guy staring back at him in the mirror, Barack Obama. He always felt that he was a doer, an achiever. Always felt that way about himself. Read his entries and the things he's written when he was younger. Always felt he was going places. He never felt race was going to hold him back. In fact, he chastised a composite character in his book named Ray, who was always playing the race card, and Obama chastised him and said, knock it off. That is why Obama decided to challenge Bobby Rush in a primary challenge, a longtime Democrat House member in Chicago, Hyde Park area. Obama tried to primary him because he thought he was too radical, thought he was too left-wing, thought he was too Al Sharpton-ish. And Obama got his head handed to him. He was maligned as a carpet-banging, elite snob out of Harvard who really wasn't black, to the point where Obama complained about it. This is how Obama really feels. That's what he really thinks. He thinks people like Al Sharpton are full of it. He thinks people like Bobby Rush are full of it. Flamethrowers, race cars. That's what he really thinks privately. But he knows he needs them to win. When he was running, you couldn't find him on the same plane with Al Sharpton. He gets elected, starts getting into electoral trouble, realizes he needs to have that 95% black vote that he got before. So he brings in Al Sharpton, has him over to the White House again and again and again. I read he was over to the White House over 70 times. Some have it as many as 80 times. For what? Guy in the thick of Crown Heights, if the Jews want to get it on, pin their yarmulkes on my hat and come over here and fight, tell them to come on over. Are you kidding me? People killed, businesses burned, businesses looted, and he's in the thick of it. And fast forward, he's got a show on MSNBC. What, David Duke wasn't available? But this is how Obama really thinks. When Obama gives a commencement speech,
What nationality, what gender, what race, whether you'd be rich or poor, gay or straight, what faith you'd be born into, you wouldn't choose 100 years ago. You wouldn't choose the 50s or the 60s or the 70s. You choose right now. In America, you would choose right now.
that's Obama giving a commencement speech at Howard. If you could choose anywhere, any time to be born, where would it be? It would be here and now. It wouldn't be the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. But then
There are very few African-American men in this country who haven't had the experience of being followed when they were shopping in a department store. That includes me. There are very, very few African-American men who haven't had the experience of walking across the street and hearing the locks click on the doors of cars. That happens to me, at least before I was a senator.
really? He looks like he's about as threatening as Urkel. Here comes Barack Obama walking down the street. Ah! Really? That happened to me.